So we have now completed developing a great REST API, and in this video we are going to look at the details of the API that we have developed so that we will be able to use that properly from a client application. So as usual, let's go with the getting started book that is in front of my screen, and let's go to the API documentation section there. This page is a key page that you should refer to before trying to use the API. So let's give a look at this page. The first thing this page describes about is CORS handling. As you saw in our application, we put this in the application.properties file, and that is because our client was a web client which was trying to contact our server, which was running in a different port. If your web client is hosted in the same application, that means inside your src main resources static folder, then you don't need to handle CORS. In that case, you don't need a line like this in your application.properties, and Spring Lemon will not activate CORS. And if you are activating CORS, here is a tip for the AngularJS guys. And for the details about CORS handling, you should refer to our Spring Framework REST API development blueprint. The next is the JS session ID. The API that we have now developed, that is a standard Java servlet based applications, and it maintains a server side session for each client, and it uses a JS session ID cookie. So when you are writing a client application, for browsers it's fine, they do it automatically. But if you're writing a different kind of application like a mobile client, or maybe from some other server you are trying to access your API, in that case you have to mimic the browser, and so that means you need to exchange the JSON ID cookie. And for that, you may find it helpful to refer to the integration test cases of our demo application available at GitHub, and this is a link to a session filter of REST Assured which we use in our integration test cases. Coming to CSRF, if you don't know about CSRF, you should go and read about it. And to handle CSRF, what Spring Lemon does is that it sends a cookie as well as a header named XSRF token or X-XSRF token, and then the client should send back the same thing in each patch or post or put or delete requests, and the server tries to match that. So for that, your client application should first send a GET request and fetch the token, and then in every post kind of request like patch or post or put or delete, it should send the same token. And also remember that Spring Security changes the token after login or logout or those kind of events, and so Spring Lemon has a ping request which is used for just for fetching the token. And refer to this page and the blueprint for more details. And if you are an AngularJS user, this is a code snippet which you can use for fetching the token and then sending it back in a post request, particularly if you are using CORS. If you are not using CORS, it is automatically handled by AngularJS. Then, if some request data would not comply to the business rules, our API would respond with a 400 bad request response, and the JSON body would look like this one, in which we have an exception field and followed by a list of errors, and each error has a field and a code and a message. So from your client side, it will be easy for you to know which error is for which field. And how to know the format of the error data for requests. The format of the error data will vary among requests, and we are not yet maintaining a documentation for each request and each error in the request, but it is very easy to find out, and the best way to find out it is to use some developer tool like the Google Chrome developer tool and look at the response data. Then if you do not know about JSON vulnerability, it's again a security threat, and to handle it, Spring Lemon prefixes the JSON responses with this string. And if you are not using the API from a browser, you may not need it. So in that case, if you want, you can disable it by putting this line in application.properties. But remember that when this is enabled and you are using the API from a client, at the client side, you should be stripping this out before you can use the response. And AngularJS does that automatically. But for other clients, you may need to check out how to strip that. And that's all on this page. And if you want to know about all the headers, those are returned, just give this command when your API is running, when your application is running, and you will be able to look at all the headers. So next, you may like to go through the documentation of each function which is provided here. For example, let's have a look at the sign off function. See how the documentation is provided here. And we are not going to discuss all these in this video. This is good for reference from this Getting Started book. So we have come to the end of this video tutorial. Hope Spring Lemon would be useful to you. Hope it will relieve you of coding and maintaining the tricky and non-functional code. With the right configuration and customization, it should be able to meet the requirements of most of the common applications. But if it does not meet your requirement, feel free to fork it, or better, you can contribute to it and help it become bigger. Even if you don't plan to use it in your projects, Spring Lemon could serve as a best practice model code base to help you learn developing Spring-based applications and APIs in the correct manner. See the documentation section of the project to know about the next steps towards mastering Spring Framework REST API development and Spring Lemon. You will find here a link to the second part of this course, which is a book for now, but in future we have some plans to develop a video for that as well. So check that out, and wish you happy coding with Spring Framework and Spring Lemon.